Mi nombre es Soledad Davis, coordino la plataforma educativa psicosimática dedicada al estudio de la astrología, la psicología y la conciencia, y es un honor para mí estar acompañada por mis maestros de astrología, Eugenio CARUTTI. Hola Eugenio. Richard TARNAS. Hi Richard. A quick introduction. Eugenio es antropólogo, es astrólogo, director fundador de la Escuela de Astrología Casa 11 en Buenos Aires, Argentina, autor de libros de astrología como Ascendentes y Las Lunas, también su libro más reciente es Inteligencia Planetaria. Richard Tarnas es director fundador del programa de estudios en Filosofía, Cosmología y Conciencia en el California Institute of Integral Studies en San Francisco, California, autor de los libros La pasión de una mente occidental y Cosmos y Psique. Y gracias por estar aquí. Thank you for being here. When I want to ask you if you can, both of you, explain very briefly what do you mean by participatory epistemology and planetary intelligence for people that maybe don't know your work. So if you can say something about this before talking about the epistemological aspect, because for me what is very interesting also is that inherent to your perspective is that goes beyond this dichotomy of object and subject epistemology that is inside and informing our modern minds and how we think, how we feel, how we act. And so if you can explain what do you mean by participatory epistemology and planetary intelligence, and also what are the implications about this to the current practice of astrology?
Epistemology, how the study of how we know things, and in the modern mind, the main tendency has been to think of the human subject as a knower is kind of located inside the brain here, and sees out at an external world and then makes judgments about what is out there. And the tendency is to think that the human being has emotions and spiritual nature, moral values, a love of beauty, spiritual aspirations, and all these are part of our subjectivity, but that the external world of stars and planets and or even the earth or trees or the ocean, that these are objects. They don't have subject. They don't have a subjectivity. They don't have a soul. Only human beings have a psychological inner world, and for conventional modern thinking, since the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment, the tendency has been to feel this split between this human subject and the external world, and objective knowledge, true, certain objective knowledge, is knowledge that is based on highly it has cleansed itself of any subjective qualities, and if you think that you see something in the world that it is being communicated to us by something other than a human, like let's say that compared with, say, pre-modern peoples or non-modern, people who are still a lot, that are present today, but are not part of the modern civilization in the same way. They're more, indigenous people, tribal traditions and so forth. They see meaning and purpose as being communicated all the time by the movements of birds, by the cycles of the planets and the sun and the moon, that the land, the earth are ensouled, that they are pregnant with meanings and purposes, and that they speak symbolically to the human being. But for the modern mind, if you think that, you're projecting human categories onto the external world, and that's an epistemological mistake. It's seen as being naive, delusional, very something you need to grow out of. And the idea of participatory epistemology is the idea that many more sophisticated, I think, contemporary thinkers are realizing that that view of the external world as being soulless, purposeless, meaningless, that's a projection of our own, and it's an assumption that only of all the beings in the universe, only human beings have a capacity for meaning and purpose and psyche. That's a pretty anthropocentric view, anthropomorphic, and so the participatory view realizes that we are participating in the larger cosmos, that we're not just in the cosmos, we are the cosmos, conscious of itself. We are one form of expression of the cosmic inner world, of the cosmic soul. And as we are on a journey for knowledge, a greater and greater understanding of the world, it's really the cosmos and the world that is on a quest for knowledge through us, and we participate in the cosmos and in the earth, and the cosmos and the earth participates in us in our act of knowing. And so then the obligation is to bring a disciplined imagination and a disciplined we need to come into a more relational intimacy with the world, rather than hold it off as a spectator that we are objectifying and neutralizing in order to know it. That obscures so much of what's really there, and the only way we're going to wake up to the deeper richness of the world is to open our hearts and souls and minds to the world as something that is continuous with us rather than separate from us, and that will take. It's like to approach the world more with a sense of honor, reverence for it. Love actually makes possible forms of knowing that are not possible if you don't love someone or something. And so it takes different a deep scientist, philosopher, who really, I think, wants to know the cosmos needs to do inner work, go through inner transformation in order to break open the armoring that keeps us defended from the richness of the world that's really there.
Well, yeah. It's astonishing that and when the scientific mind look at the galaxies, they don't start to cry. They don't are moved by the greatness that they are seeing. No.
Yes.
But I think there are, as an anthropologist, I think the human species, in order to survive, we learn to make tools and to create objects. And so we develop a kind of mind, I call it technological mind. Even if you are a religious person, you are objectifying the world. And our brain was fascinated by this power, and this power has a direction to go, creating more objects and be fascinated by forms, and to dismiss relationships. The human species doesn't explore the mystery of relationship. We have lost this mystery a long time ago, and it's very difficult for us as a species to think in terms of relationships. But this is what is needed. I always think that destiny goes in the direction of create narcissistic wounds for everyone. And I don't know, for individuals and for the species in general. Right?
Yeah.
And you analyze very properly the importance of the Copernican revolution. Right? When there is a change in the center, the human mind has a shock. It must adapt to a new reality, and I think now is very explicit that our crisis is a crisis of relationship.
And what do you
Very
think
much,
are the implications of these philosophical reflections on the practice of astrology? Because it seems that goes beyond the individual astrological consultation and even the self-centered astrology. So how could it change the practice of astrology itself, this kind of another epistemological view of reality?
I think this is the core of astrology. This is a true astrology. The natal chart is a pattern of relationships. No? As you said before, we are related beings. We are not autonomous beings. We are born in relationship, and we live in relationship, and relationships is previous to us as an identity. So if you look at the natal chart in this way, the important thing is how the person learns into the events and the relationship in his life, how the person discovers itself or himself in the relationships, through the events. So we must learn through relationships, and we must learn through events, not control our relationship, or try to control the events. So
Yes.
the events in our life and our relationship are the keys that open the deeper levels of our soul.
Yes. Make us more in touch with the whole rather than just with the narrow part. Yes. In a way, it's similar to the challenge of psychotherapy and psychology as well. One of my teachers and friends, a man named James Hillman, who was founder of archetypal psychology, and he once said, used it as a title of a book. He said, "We've had 100 years of psychotherapy, and the world is getting worse." And he said, what his point was is that we're not looking at the bigger picture of, by just focusing on the individual person isolated in the therapy room, in the consulting room, and that's true also if you look at us living in a soulless cosmos. You can't heal the individual soul if you have that individual soul go out into the world that is seen as soulless, and it's not in an inwardly relational identity towards all of life, and towards the cosmos itself, as well as with the human community and other people. So it's the whole that needs to be healed, or our vision of the whole, our relationship to the whole. And so it's the same thing in astrology. If you're only looking at the natal chart and thinking about, how can I work the system in order to bring the greatest personal profit to me, as an isolated individual, it's a kind of abuse of astrology in a way. In a way, it's taking. Astrology is a kind of form of magic in a way, and as is technology, and both of those can be abused in a way that can get one in a lot of trouble, and in a way that's, Prometheus bound is the result, when you don't recognize the relationship to the other gods as well. So I think we are seeing things very, very similarly here. The importance of astrology breaking out of the isolated bubble of the individual subject who and recognizing that each of us is embedded in a larger whole, and that the larger whole is inside us, and any healing has to happen within the relational field, not just in the individual bubble inside here.
Yes, I think that the first practical consequence of what we are saying is that in a deep astrology, you have no one to blame for what is happening to you. You can blame your mother or your father or your brother, or because
Right.
that's the exteriorization, the manifestation of your most inner being, and what you have to learn. And this is a mystery, huh? Of
Yes.
course, for us. And that is why it's so challenging. And there is a limit in our mind to feel and to think the how all the natal charts are interconnected,
Yes.
magically interconnected,
Yeah.
in a synastry that is beyond our imagination, and how things happen. I used to say, when something happens to you, it never happens only to you.
That's right. Yeah.
Something happens, and happens for a lot of people, and in a co-destination. No? We don't have our own destiny.
Yes.
Our destiny is the destiny of everything in the planet, of all mankind, and all the people that is with us.
Yes.
I think it is an illusion to think about my destiny.
That's right.
It's always a co-destination, no?
Yes.
The destiny of the father, of the mother, of the brother, of the lover. Well, they are all connected. And the fact that we can think properly about that is not an excuse to don't accept that. No?
Yes. Sometimes astrology can help people forgive their parents, for example.
Yeah.
Because they see, oh, it's in my chart, and there's a way in which the parents kind of represent part of my destiny that involves both challenging and also positive elements that I think there's that phrase amor fati, the love of our destiny, the love of our fate, and it helps embrace helps us embrace everything that has happened to us and all the people that have been part of our lives as being, in some sense, part of our own unfolding. And as you're speaking, I'm also thinking about how important it is to recognize that, the little things that we do and say and think, and also the deeper, major inner transformations we go through, no matter how private it is inside, our own home, it goes out, it ripples out into the world. It is felt by everyone in a certain way, and everything that's going on out there is also being felt in here. We even a person living in a cave is experiencing the archetypal dynamics of the anima mundi along with everyone else, but they're experiencing it in their own individual form, but it's not, they're not completely isolated from the whole, and that helps us. To me, it helps people feel that what they do and say and think and feel is important for the whole, and isn't just a private matter. It in some sense is part of the participation in a larger journey that we're all going through.
Yeah, I would like to bring one more aspect of astrology, that is time, that we know that the astrological time is cyclic. how do you think that changing our perception of time can change us also, change our identity, the perception of time?
I think time is one of the greatest mysteries. The science don't know what is time, and there's no philosopher that 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 had an understanding of time. I think astrology is a tradition that in which time was more we are really in touch with this mystery. But I think there is a difference between our psychological time of the past, the present, and the future. The narrative, our narrative of the past and our expectation of the future. And another thing is the unfolding of the information of what really are, that this is an ordered sequence of information about us. I want to say, we don't think much about this, but in the moment that we are born, there is the natal chart, and we used to think that the transits and all the progression are things that happen after the natal chart. But in reality, the natal chart is a seed that has in itself all the algorithm, or all the sequence of how this information will appear in my life in a time that is pre-ordered.
Yes.
No?
Yeah. Very mystery.
I am now with Saturn in opposition to the Sun. Or say, oh, just right now. No, from the beginning, it was establishing. Yes. I am this time. I am the person which in this moment appears a new information in an inner relationship, in an outer relationship that was that is unavoidable.
That's right. So, inevitable. Yeah.
Inevitable. In our separative way of living or perceiving, we think that why the things are happening in this moment?
Yes.
Well, because I am this moment. What we are and the sequence of the unfolding of the information of what we are instant after instant is a great mystery.
Yes, I so agree, and having that insight can have a healing effect on the embrace of one's life as it is, rather than being in a constant state of complaining or resistance. I think, and the way that our natal charts contain, as you say, a seed, the potential in potentia, the whole is right there in a very mysterious way, and sometimes, astrologers sometimes have the special challenge of looking ahead at their own personal transits and thinking, oh no, I've got this hard transit coming up, and I remember many years ago when I looked forward to transits that I was going to have at a certain time, back in like 2001 to 2004, I saw Uranus was going to be conjunct my sun in early Pisces. And I'm born with Sun trine Uranus. So I thought, great. That could be an exciting time, creative, maybe having some personal breakthroughs or awakenings or bringing forth something. But then this is before it happened. I also then look over at, well, Pluto is going to be squaring my Saturn the whole time that Uranus is on my sun. And I go, oh, what bad luck, what misfortune. And as it turned out, it was during those 3 years that I wrote Cosmos and Psyche, and I needed all the discipline and hard work that Pluto square Saturn demanded of me. I mean, it was like 12 hours a day, sometimes 15 straight, very focused, kind of separate from the world in a almost like monk-like setting, and I needed it in order for the Uranus conjunct Sun creative, kind of epiphany to come through, and so it gave me a sense of, like, the cosmos knew I needed both of those at the same time for me to do what I was supposed to do this lifetime. And I think there's a kind of healing influence that we can get, that the astrologer can have of their own lives, but also to help impart to others, to communicate to others, to help them, have that sense of amor fati, of the love of their own, the wisdom of their life journey beyond, as a mystery beyond what their conscious, rational mind can comprehend or control.
I used to say, I prefer to say, not to say natal chart, but a natal code in the sense of the DNA. No? Is encoded in us. Yes. Because, as the DNA has an inner timer to release this information, now is the moment to
yes.
To change the face in this way, and that's the model that you are sexually mature. This is a code that is perfectly ordered in the moments in which the information is released, and the shape of the body, what will be the shape of the body in this moment. No? My face now seems very different than when I was a baby, but in the DNA, it is the same face with all his transformations that were encoded in the DNA. It's not another face. If we think about the form, it's very different, but in the level of the code is the same.
That's right.
It's the same face.
Yes.
And so it's the same with in other level. No? What happens to us happens in the moment of the timer of our natal code.
Right.
It's information we need now to be what we are now.
That's a beautiful idea of the how the genetic code, the DNA, has its own, the timing of its unfolding is contained in the code, and certain potentials cannot be expressed until a certain time.
Yes.
Yes, astrology helps bring us back to that time in human history when we did see things in cycles all the time, because of where human beings were much more in touch with the cycles of the moon, cycles of the sun, of the stars, and also of the seasons. And there was, a kind of constant, eternal circular movement and cyclical movement. And one of the advantages of that view is that you have the sense that you are always part of a process of becoming, and also that the dying of one cycle is the birth of a new cycle. And so that's another very big, important thing, because the modern mind, which kind of comes out of the European tradition, Greek philosophy and so forth, but it also is greatly affected by Judaism and Christianity and its sense of time and history as having an arrow going forward from the past to a future that will, in let's say Christian terms, moving towards fulfillment of God's will or of the divine, a divine flowering going, and or from the Greeks, it's more of a sense of going from a darker, ignorant condition to a more enlightened condition where we have greater knowledge and greater scientific and philosophical understanding and greater freedom. And the modern mind very much brought those together with a sense of an arrow of time, linear time going forward. And I think we're in a position as both being, modern or postmodern, and we're also astrologically informed. So we're carrying this ancient view inside us, and we're aware how deep that is. And so we're in a position. I think this is another example of the synthesis of opposites, and one way of seeing how both the cycle is true and the arrow of time is, of course, to think of it in terms of a spiral.
Yeah, of course.
And so you are having, this eternal becoming and dying and being born, and each planetary cycle comes to an end, and then a conjunction happens and it begins another cycle. But there's also this other level where everything that happened under the previous cycles of a given planetary could be like the Uranus Neptune cycle, for example, is going into the next time Uranus and Neptune come into alignment. It's carrying that. It doesn't just start in zero, blank. It is an evolution, and there's an
Unfolding.
an unfolding, and a lot depends on what we bring into that evolution, so that the next time that whether it's a new moon or a big outer planet cycle that takes 40 years, the next time that happens, we have died and given a seed into the ground for that next cycle to unfold that will be different than the last time that it started. So it's just not constantly just going out back to the same place. It's actually a very magnificent journey in which we have responsibility.
Yes. I think it's a journey in which repetition and novelty are another pair of opposites. Always the repetition, because there are patterns, and we are learning to understand patterns in a more complex way, but at the same time, as it is a whole system that is cycling, So it's never the same pattern. It's the same pattern, but in another context.
Yes.
And so, well, this is disappointing to the people who want to know what will happen. But it's the real creativity of the universe and what we really are. Repetition, novelty, and how many repetitions we need to understand what we really are. Well, it is up to us.
That's right. And what you're describing is that that great mystery of the repetition and novelty, the patterns that repeat, and then the creative innovation is like, that's Saturn and Uranus. The two principles are eternally interacting. And of course, right now we have in the sky Saturn square Uranus. Yeah. I feel that astrology deserves such an elevation. It is a noble tradition, and it has been diminished by the modern worldview, but also in a way by the tradition going, the astrological tradition going through a kind of loss of contact with its deeper cosmological and spiritual grounding. It's so I was and its philosophical implications to. So from the beginning, it always seemed to me, astrology seemed to me both a beautiful instrument or tool for self-understanding in a very practical way and for living life, but it also seemed like, wow, there's major implications here that we need to think through. This, you can't just introduce this and keep your old worldview. There has to be a dialogue and and in a way a mutual transformation, because astrology can also learn from some things that the modern mind has brought are valuable, obviously. So there's a dialogue that goes in both directions. The conventional tradition from the last few centuries and is resistant to what they call psychological astrology, while for others of us, if astrology is not seen as psychological, it's just missing something central to it. I mean, it's like, if it becomes just a tool for prediction and as you say, control of the outer world, where am I going to make my financial investments, or what kind of a romantic erotic life am I going to have this year, that kind of or when should I time the launch of my business. I mean, that's okay, but it's not it's like missing the deep treasure that astrology offers to us, and yeah.
What do you think is that treasure that is missing in that way of astrology? Why a kind of prediction can be used for, I don't know, to synchronize yourself with the cosmos, for example?
Okay.
What do you think is missing? And I extend the question to Eugenio.
Yeah. From my point of view, it's okay. It's a good thing to use astrology to navigate life more skillfully, as you say, Soledad. You know, like I don't. It's. I mean, I sometimes will decide when's a good time to initiate an important conversation, for example. Uh, but maybe when it comes to using astrology just to predict the stock market, I feel a little strange about that, especially because the person who makes money on the stock market is making it because somebody else is losing some money that they're gaining, and you know that doesn't feel good. But what I'm saying is that to not be aware of the deeper levels of what in we call an archetypal perspective, where the archetypes have so many different levels, and they ultimately are expressive of I think divine powers, cosmic divine powers that have a kind of rainbow spectrum of ways of coming through, and some of those ways are deeply spiritual, transformative. We can, for example, actually using the birth chart and the transits to be able to better understand and perhaps even time one's deep self-explorations through sacred plants, for example, which is a brave journey to do that kind of inner journeying, and to have the help of the stars to be able to use it that way. And in a way, that's a combination of, it's not controlling the external world, but it is using it to time more skillfully, to be able to go into the depths of the soul and open oneself more trustingly to the wisdom of the cosmos as it puts our soul through a deep transformation, which can sometimes be quite painful. To have the knowledge that somehow the cosmos has a meaningful relationship to what's going on in my depths gives me a trust in the cosmos and in my own depths that I might not otherwise have. I feel held by it. It's a healing reunion of the inner and the outer, a kind of marriage in a way of cosmos and psyche, and of outer and inner, of the stars and the soul. And when that happens, it allows me to have greater trust in the flow of life, including loss, and including even loss that involves dying, because I trust that the dying is part of a larger life.
And astrology is a very practical way to understand faster what is the real order of our lives, that is not our personal desires, but there is an order in our life that is very meaningful and very deep, and even with suffering and death, sooner or later one can realize that what is happening is more meaningful than what I wanted to happen.
Yes.
if we take very seriously astrology, we are embodying two different minds in ourselves.
Yes.
No?
Yeah.
The mind that thinks and feels as subject and object, and a very different mind that everything is relationships, and subjects and objects are just vanishing appearances. And to embody this, to have these two minds in one person is a very challenging process.
Yes. Yeah.
We don't know how to think about the relationship itself. Identity emerges through relationship.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
usually we think the other way. We think that the identity has relationships.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, sometimes in English we talk about it as our identity is constituted by our relationships.
Yes.
And it's not that this person out there is in a relationship to me over here, but that we are internally related to that person, and they are to me. So it takes a much more complex intelligence, as you say. I think what we're both saying about the importance of recognizing astrology's extraordinary gift for both deep self-understanding, spiritual, psychological, and its capacity to give us a view of the cosmos as caring for the human journey, individual and collective, is it's so needed now because we're in a global crisis, as you know, climate catastrophe, and economically, socially, politically, and so I think it's not an accident. You know how people, when they're in crisis, that's when they tend to open up to help. They go to a therapist and ask for help. And it's also when people are in crises and going through major thresholds of life that synchronicities tend to happen. Meaningful coincidences that make one realize that more is going on than they thought. I think it's not an accident that astrology is now entering more into the collective awareness, because the whole collective soul is going through a kind of rite of passage.
It was such a gift for me to listen to you both. Thank you. I feel deeply, deeply honored to have you both here today. And you are my first teachers of astrology, and you have inspired me so much. And it's such a gift to listen to you both in dialogue. Really, so thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm grateful to you, Soledad, for bringing us together. It is a gift for me to get to know.
I'm very grateful to Soledad. Yes, and we need people like Soledad that is a connecting person.
Yes. So we thank you, Soledad.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.